Hey everyone, this is Kathy from K-Del Handmade, and I wanted to welcome you to the Beachcomber Pouch Sew Along. The Beachcomber Pouch pattern is by Needle and Anchor, and I will link to the pattern in the description of this video. But I wanted to go ahead and go over the pieces that you're going to need. We'll talk about that a little bit. I have a finished one here that I can show you. I did this one with some waterproof canvas and then cotton woven, and so I will show you where some of those pieces go. But you're going to need a zipper and a zipper pull. You can decide if you want to do on the end, you're going to be closing it off, you're going to need either a zipper end cap, or you can use a piece of fabric to close off the end of your zipper. Also, if you want to do a side tab to connect a wrist strap to, you're going to need a 0.5 inch D-ring and then your strap connector piece. You also have your top zipper gussets for your recessed zipper. I'll show that. Your top band. This is going to be the main front in the center, and then you have your right and left accent pieces. You will have two lining pieces, and then you will have your gussets, so your exterior and your lining gusset. So there are options in the pattern to do box corners and some different features. I'm going to be doing the gusset, which is similar to this one that I did. So you will have that. Also, if you want to add any sort of logo, I'm going to add this little hang tag. It's clear acrylic hang tag that I'm going to be adding to the side. Instead of the wrist strap, I'm going to hang this off the side. And then I also have this cork label that I'm going to be putting on the front of the bag. Okay, so now that we have all the pieces, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is to create the front panel. So you're going to need your main centerpiece and then your left and right accents, and you're going to line up these angled corners and clip them in place. You'll do that to both sides, and then you're going to take it to the sewing machine. You're going to stitch down the measurements. The seam allowance is provided in the pattern instructions. So you're going to stitch down at that seam allowance. You're then going to press both of these panels away, and you're going to top stitch. Alright, so here's what I did with this panel. I stitched at the seam allowance, I pressed the seams open and laid them flat, and then I top stitched along each side of that seam. So the pattern gives you instructions for if you want to just press them to the one side and then top stitch down just one side. I just like doing mine this way, so that's why I did that. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to grab your top band and you're going to lay it right sides together along that top edge. You're going to clip that in place. You're going to do the same thing. Stitch according to the seam allowance, flip it up, and then you're going to top stitch along that as well. I did that. Now the other option, if you want to, you can add a label or a logo tag or something like that. I think I'm going to add mine to the front here. You can also add it to this top band if you wanted to. I just think it would be just featured kind of neatly right there in the center. So I'm just going to fold this in half to find where the center of my panel is, and then I'm going to use a ruler. These are just my own measurements. I'm just kind of eyeballing it to see, with this being the center line, I put this mark right here in the ruler right in the center, so now I can measure and make sure that this label is centered on the bag. So if you want to do that, actually I probably should have done this first, but I'm going to add a little bit of double-sided tape to the back to help hold it in place until I get to the sewing machine. So again, putting that mark right there, right in the center. I'm just measuring it, making sure it's straight with this line here. And then if you wanted to, you always could measure, right, that top edge is like 2 inches from there, and it's a little bit, let's go a little bit more to the left. Okay, all right. So if you are adding a logo tag, you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to stitch that on, and then we will be ready to attach the gusset to the side of the outside of the bag. All right, now that you have, if you're adding a label, you have that all attached, you are ready to attach your outer gusset. So what you want to do is you want to find the center points. So I will just fold mine in half. If you have a pen, I'm using a Friction, which is a heat erasable pen. So you can go ahead and mark a line right in the center, and that might help you just line up your pieces. I'm going to do this again to the outer. Just mark a spot right there. Okay, so now what you want to do is you're going to line up these marks, the center. So you're going to place your pieces right sides together, lining up those 2 pen marks, and then you're going to clip that in place. And I usually also add just a clip to the left and the right to help so that doesn't move. Flipping it back over, you're now going to take your top edge and you're going to align it with the top corner of this bag, of this panel I should say. You're going to clip that in place. Doing the same thing on the other side, your other top point to that corner. You're going to, let me grab a few more clips here. You're going to attach that, clip it in place. All right, now what you need to do is you need to clip in place around this corner. Now, there are many different methods you can use to do this. Oftentimes I will just use clips. You could also use staples to help hold it in place. Usually I will work right down to the center. Okay, and then doing the same thing on the other side. Okay, so once you get that clipped all the way around, making sure your top corners are lined up and the bottom rounded corners are clipped in place or secured in whatever fashion you like, you're going to stitch this on according to the seam allowance in the pattern instructions. Okay, once you have that stitched on, you're going to take, if you have a pair of pinking shears, which is the ones that have the I like to call them alligator teeth, little zigzag teeth, you're going to cut just around the corners. You're just going to trim, being careful not to cut into your stitch line. So just trim a little bit around each corner. Okay, once you have that done, what we need to do is we need to attach the other outer panel. So I think I forgot to mention this in the very beginning when I was going over the lining panels, but you will have another piece that is the same size in your outer fabric, and that is your back lining panel. So I have interfaced with SF101 and also Decoville Light. I've already marked my center mark here, and I'm going to take that and make sure these marks are lined up. Okay, once I get that, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to clip it in place here at the center. I'm going to add one to either side. And then I'm going to come up here to the top edges. Lining up the top corners and the side straight edges. Add a couple clips here. Around to the other side, same thing. And then just like on the other side, we need to clip the rest of the way around each curve. Okay. Once that is clipped in place, I'm going to take it to the sewing machine with this panel down against the bed of the sewing machine. I'm going to stitch just like I did on the other side all the way around according to the seam allowance in the pattern instructions. Alright, that is stitched on. I'm going to do the same thing with these corners using my pinking shears. I'm just going to trim a little bit down around the corners. Alright, so there is your outer piece finished. I'm going to leave it this way until we are ready to attach the lining to it, and we're ready to move on to the next step. Alright guys, the next step here is what we need to do is to prepare the zipper. So this is where you're going to decide if you're going to use a fabric end piece. There are directions in the pattern on how you will fold in all the sides, and then what you would do is you would then, well, I think you get the idea. My folding is not very great, but you get the idea. So you're going to do all the folding, and then, and this is not how the instructions show, but just to show you the end idea, is you're going to have a piece of fabric on the end of your zipper. I am not going to do that. I am going to use this hardware instead. So this is a zipper end cap. And so the first thing we need to do, and this is true for if you're using the end cap or the fabric end, is you need to attach your zipper pull. So I'm going to use this little zipper jig, which is actually a towel holder. I just learned recently, and it works, for me it works perfectly for attaching or for installing zippers, zipper pulls on your zippers. So now that I have that attached, at the end here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold these pieces in, and then you're going to take your end cap and basically stuff your zipper inside. So it's going to look like that when you're done. What I like to do is I will, because I want my zipper tape to be even in the end cap, is you can add a little piece of double-sided tape to help hold it in place. You can add some glue to help hold it in place. I have here, this is just what I use. This is B7000. It's Gravity Magic Rubber. I just noticed that. Gravity Magic Rubber. Who knew? So I'm just going to add a tiny dot here and fold that in. And I'm going to add another tiny dot to this side. fold that piece on top. And then it should easily, let's see here. All right, it should easily go into the end cap. There we go. Okay, and then what I will do, you need to, it comes with, the end caps come with a teeny, tiny little screw. So what I will do is I will also put a dot of glue in the hole there. And then when I attach the screw, that glue will help to hold everything in place. Okay, so now that I have that attached on the end, my zipper won't go anywhere, and you want to make sure when you're doing this, make sure you're doing it on the closed end of your zipper. So that is going to be the flat end, the closed side, not the open side, because that would be terrible, and I've done that before, so make sure you don't do that. So the next thing we need to do is we need to make 90-degree angles at the ends of our zipper here. So you're going to just turn under this end of the zipper, and you can secure this any way you like. You could use a lighter to singe it, and then that kind of melts it, and you can hold it together that way. You can add a couple stitches, or what I'm going to do here, this is a Tim Holtz mini stapler, and I am just going to bring that in there, get my fingers out of the way, and staple the side down. Okay, I'm going to do that on the other side, making sure that my zipper ends are even, because now that I have the end on the other end, I'm not going to be able to adjust this in the final piece. So making sure that these are even. Adding a staple to hold it in place. Okay. All right, so now that your zipper is prepped, we are ready to attach the zipper gussets. So grabbing your zipper gussets, I'm going to move this out of the way for a second. You're going to flip all of your zipper gussets to the back side. So they are right sides down, wrong sides up. You are going to measure in. There are measurements in the pattern instructions on how far in you're going to measure. So you're just going to make a line down each side of each zipper gusset. Okay, now that your lines are marked on the short ends of each of your zipper gusset, I'm going to put 2 of them to the side. I'm just going to be working with 2, so that will be on one side of the zipper for now. You can do, there are a couple different methods. You can go ahead and fold this in at that marked line. You can put a pin there to help it help hold it in place. I'm just going to go ahead and fold it in. Okay, and then what we're going to do, you can put some clips there if you want it to help hold it, or just finger press it. I'm just finger pressing mine. So what I'm going to do now is, coming over with my zipper, I'm going to take one of the zipper panels with the sides folded under and the zipper panel right side up. I'm going to apply a piece of double-sided tape between these 2 marks. Okay, so after removing the paper backing from your panel here, you're going to flip your zipper down, and you want it to line up with that raw edge of your zipper panel. Okay, and then adding another piece of double-sided tape to this side of your zipper. You're going to remove that, and then with your other panel folded with the sides folded in at that marked line, you're going to lay that on top. So again, you want to make sure that your panels are lining up. So line up that edge. The double-sided tape should hold it in place, but if you want to add a couple clips just to help make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And then on this side, just make sure that these both end at the same place, even if it means maybe one of your tabs ends up being a little bit longer or a little bit shorter, that's okay. Okay, so now that that's done, we're going to stitch along this line, but making sure, so this is the tricky part, you want to unfold your ends and stitch only between these marked lines. So leaving these little tab ends unstitched for now. Okay, so you're going to stitch just along that line. All right, now that that is stitched between those two marked lines, what you're going to do is you're going to fold these back, and then you're going to fold both ends away from the zipper tape. Clip that in place to help hold it. What I like to do is just pull both ends away from the zipper and clip as I go down. Once I get it clipped, I will flip it over, double check it to make sure everything looks good. And then getting to the other end, I'm going to fold in at that marked line, the same thing. And there you have it. Okay, so now I flip it over to the other side. Just make sure that everything is nice and pressed away from the zipper. And then what you're going to do is you're going to top stitch a box all the way around the outside. So short edge along the zipper tape, back down the short edge, and then just here creating this box and enclosing that zipper panel. Okay, so that's how that finished piece will look. And then you're going to repeat and do the same thing for the other side using the other two zipper panels. Now here I think it's important to note you want to make sure that the edges of this one and this one, so your two panels, the folded under edges are matched. And the same here. Just want to make sure that those are matched up good. Okay, again, you want to clip it in place. You're going to stitch just between, you can see this line is a little bit further out than here, so I'm going to stitch just to where this piece ends right here. So in a little bit, and then this is what I was saying, it's okay if this tab ends up being folded under a little bit more than the measurement. The main part is you want to make sure that your two zipper panels are even. Okay, once that is complete, this is what your completed zipper tab or panel will look like. You'll have your two zipper gussets here, and then whatever strap end or zipper end method you chose for the end of your zipper. Okay, so Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the lining panels together. So just like we did on the exterior, I'm going to fold in half and make a mark at the bottom center of each. And then folding the gusset in half, marking the center of that as well. And then just like we did on the outer, you're going to match up your marks. Clip in place here at the center. Flipping it over, aligning that top corner. Clip that in place. The other corner. Okay, and then again you're going to clip it around the corners. You're going to stitch that panel together. Once you get that stitched, you're going to trim with your pinking shears. You're going to trim the corners again, and then you're going to flip it over, do the same thing with this panel just like we did for the outer. And then once you get that done, we are ready to attach the zipper gusset. We will be attaching the zipper gusset to the lining panel. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch these together, and then I will show the next step here with the zipper gusset. Okay guys, so I actually am back a little early. I wanted to point out that when you're attaching the second side here, you need to leave a turning hole. So you want to leave a hole that is around maybe 6 inches, 5 or 6 inches I would say. So you're going to leave this part down here unsewn. So if you want, you can make a little mark here, and then on this side a little mark, and so you know that's where you're going to start and stop sewing. So what I'm going to do is actually, once I get this all clipped around, I'm going to stitch starting at the end here. I'm going to stitch up to the seam allowance, and then I'm going to sew around. Same thing for this side, stitch up to the seam allowance, and then sew around. And then that's going to make, once we turn this through and I need to turn this seam allowance under, that's going to make that final step a lot easier. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and continue stitching. I'll sew it around, leaving that turning hole. Alright, so the lining is all stitched. I have that turning hole left open, and now what we need to do is we are going to attach our zipper gusset to the lining. So what you want to do is you want to put your gusset inside, and you're going to have your zipper teeth up. So you want to center it between your panel, and there are measurements in the pattern instructions for about how much width you will have on either side, but basically you just want it centered. So you can go ahead and clip that in place. Once you get it clipped, you're going to baste along this top edge. Here, basting along this top edge, attaching the gusset to your lining panel. Okay, here's the gusset attached here. Now what we need to do is pull up the other side, and then we are going to do the same thing, attaching it to the other side panel. Okay, so that's clipped in place. We're going to attach it there, and then we will be ready to attach the lining panel with the outer bag. Okay, now that that is attached on both sides, what we want to do is we are going to open the zipper panel, the zipper pocket I should say, zipper gusset, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. This top zipper, we're going to open it all the way, and leaving this wrong side out, we are going to take our lining, I'm sorry, our exterior, we're going to turn that one so that it is right sides out. Okay, and then with the front of your bag facing towards you, figure out which way you want your zipper to close. So I like mine opening and closing from the left. So with the front of my bag here, I'm going to keep this lining panel and I'm going to just slip the exterior into the lining, pushing it down inside so it fits. It's going to be a little bit bigger than your lining, but that's okay. And so what you want to do now is you're going to line up your side seams. We're going to clip it in place all the way around, and then we're going to take it to the sewing machine and we are going to stitch our panels together, our lining and our exterior, attaching the bag together. Alright, now that that is all clipped, we're going to take it to the sewing machine. According to the seam allowance in the pattern instructions, we are going to stitch all the way around this top clipped edge, and then we will be ready to turn it through this hole that we left here at the bottom. Alright, so that is all stitched all the way around. Now our next step is to pull it through this hole that we left in the lining. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I'm just pushing this lining down as far as I can, pulling up the side panel, because what we're going to do is we're going to now top stitch all the way around the top of the bag. So you want to make sure that it's pulled up as much as possible. On the sides here, I'll add a clip. It's really, unless you have those really long clips, you can't really clip these sides, so I will just work it with my fingers as I go around, making sure this lining is down as far as possible and this fold on this exterior is down as far as possible away from this piece here. Alright, so then I'm going to clip this side. And again, like I said, I just work with my fingers all the way around. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're just going to take it to your sewing machine and top stitch all the way along this folded edge here. Okay, so I will do that. Once everything, you make sure, like I said, once you get it all pushed in here, make sure that it's the lining fits the way you like it to. If you need to make any adjustments, now's the time before you get it all sewn down and sewn together. Once you get your top stitching done here, you can pull your lining back out, and then what you're going to do is you're going to fold under this seam allowance here. You can add a couple clips to help hold it in place. And then for this one, you're just going to stitch as close as you can to this folded edge. So as close as you can to this edge here, just closing up this hole. So I'm going to put another clip here at this end so I know that's where it starts and stops. And then once you get that done, push that back in, and then your outer bag is done, and then I will show you the last step here, which is to add the connector on the side. Alright, lining is closed, panel is top stitched. So now the last thing we need to do is to add on this side. This is optional. If you want to add over here, you can add a connector. So if you wanted to add a wrist strap or something like that, you can add a connector to this side. So that's what I'm going to do here with my D-ring. Like I said, I'm going to attach my acrylic logo tag to the D-ring. So what you want to do is take your connector panel. So what you're going to do is you're going to fold in the short ends up to that marked line, like that. And if you wanted to add a piece of double-sided tape to help hold it in place, you can. So I'm going to do that here. So folding up to the short ends, or to that marked line. Folding the short ends up to the marked line. There we go, I got it. All right, and then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to fold it into the center. So the long ends, we're going to fold it into that center line. Again, you can add double-sided tape if you want to. You don't have to, but it just helps to hold it in place. I like it because it helps to hold it in place until I can get it all stitched down. So you're folding it up there to the center. Same thing on this side. All right, now the last thing you're going to do is you're going to fold it in half again. So it gets pretty, kind of thick there at the ends. Like I have SF101 on the backing of mine, and so that makes it a little thick. You don't have to add that if you don't want to, or if it's too much for your machine. But what we're going to do now is we're just going to top stitch all the way around, enclosing this, making this little strip. All right, once it's stitched, what I will do is I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to make 2 marks . I'm not measuring these, I'm just eyeballing them. I want them to be in the center, so I think when I make the holes, I will move them over a little bit. But I'm going to hold this in place this way, take it over to my hole punch, and punch these holes. If you don't have a table press, you can always make a hole this way, and then once you have those holes, you can fold it in half, put your pen inside there to make a mark that will show through here and here, so you know where to punch on that side. Because what we're going to do is we're going to attach this to the side of your bag here, and we're going to be attaching that with rivets, so you'll want that to go all the way through. And then, like I said, once you have those holes made, you can use that as a template to mark the holes here, so you know where to punch the holes on your bag. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get these holes punched. I'm going to mark the holes where it should be here, get those holes punched, and then I'm going to slide the rivets on. Before you attach it, you're also going to slide on your D-ring. Don't forget to attach your D-ring before you set the rivets, and then we will be just about done. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach this and be right back. Alright guys, I don't know if you noticed, but through the magic of video editing, I went ahead and created another side connector. The pattern instructions say to use interfacing on it, but I just felt that was just really too bulky when I went to put it on my bag. So I removed the interfacing, made another one, and attached it there to the side. So now the last thing we have to do is I'm going to attach my little keychain logo here. There we go. So that's hanging off the side. Cute, cute, cute. The front zipper pull, which I love. I got this from New Moxie. It says know your worth. then add tacks. The zipper end here, if you don't like it that long, feel free, you can always shorten it up if you don't like such a long zipper tail. But yeah, there you go. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to making more and seeing you guys around. All right.